Hello everyone, my name is Andrew Bosher, and today I want to show you how to make a dirty, steezy, custom-made kick drum using the Kong Drum Designer in Reason. The track that you just heard was something I just made for this tutorial real quick, but I want to show you guys how to make that sound from scratch, so let's get started. I do have a new project opened up here, and in my new projects rack I already have my custom drum machines already set up, and in my very first tutorial I showed you guys how I liked to make my kick drums, but I just want to refresh you on my routing real quick. So I have a combinator set up here, and I have a line mixer in the combinator. I have a Kong that's routed to the first channel of the line mixer, and then I have a redrum that isn't routed via audio, and it's strictly for sequencing, so I'm just using it for this right here to trigger these drum pads here. So it's just the gate out to the gate in of each channel, and you can always, press tab to flip the rack, of course. So let's get started creating that first bass drum, the sub bass drum. And in the first drum pad here, in the arrow, make sure to click that, and also make sure to reset the device or initialize patch, depending on what version of Reason you're using. Click the drum modules down arrow menu here, and let's go to Synth bass drum. The way I'm going to do this isn't necessarily the right or wrong way to do it, so I thoroughly encourage you guys to mess with these parameters. Definitely try to get a sound that you want, but for this tutorial I'm going to set the pitch to -30 on the first knob here, and remember, you can always click and hold shift to hone in on specific frequencies. The pitch bend amount will be at 9, so it'll have a slight bend in pitch, but nothing too serious. And the bend time will increase all the way to 127, so it does it throughout the triggered note. The tone will be increased to about 62, so it's a little brighter and a little punchier. And the noise mix will be at 0. The click frequency will also be at 0, as well as the resonance of the click and the click level. I don't want any clicks on this particular sub drum. It's pretty undesirable, and I just don't want it at all. When it comes to attack time, even if you have a low attack, you can still hear a click, even if all of these parameters are turned down. So I'm going to increase this to about 86. And the decay I'm also going to increase to about 64. And that way it's not too long, but it has a nice thick tail. The level I'm going to turn all the way up to 127, and even at this point it won't be very audible. You could barely hear it if I played it out. So I'm going to do a few things before we play this out. The first thing is I'm going to go to the drum output module here, and I'm going to set it to 3/4. I'm then going to hold shift, right click on the Kong, and I'm going to create a Scream 4 distortion unit. I'm going to press tab to flip the rack, and I'm going to route audio 3/4 of the Kong to input of the Scream, and then I'm going to route the output of the Scream to the second channel of the line mixer. I'm also going to create a bus compressor here, the bus effect box, and that way I'm going to layer a bus kick drum on top of this, so it layers nicely and fills it out. I'm going to set the release pretty low, not pretty low, kind of low at 45. I'm also going to lower the attack to maybe about 55. That way it squashes transients just slightly earlier, but it also gives it a nice pop. The compression amount will be at about 40, and I'm going to increase the actual bus effect knob here of drum 1 to about 59, 60 even. I'm then going to, on the first effects box here, create a low pass filter just to shave off the lower mid frequencies and just make it nice and full in the sub, and the frequency here is about 55. I'm going to turn down the resonance to about 0, that way there's no peaks and it just is really full kick drum. The second FX box, I'm going to create a compressor, and I'm going to decrease the release all the way down so it really pops. And I'm also going to increase the attack so it takes a little bit of time for any sort of transients to round off. The compression amount will be at about 29. And so if we took a listen to what it sounds like now, this is what we have. So it's still a little quiet, so what we're going to do on these parameters of the Scream 4 distortion unit is, in the previous one I really did just use these default parameters, so just reset the device or initialize patch, but I'm going to increase the master level to about 95, and I'm going to increase the damage to about 76. The tone's presence I'm going to decrease to about 20, but the tone itself is at about 62 by default. I'm just going to leave it there. So now let's hear what we have. So it's pretty full and it sounds good. The meter here says that it's a little bit clipping, but on the master fader it's not clipping, so we're good to go there. So it's a good sub drum that we created from scratch, but we're also going to layer another kick drum on top of it to really round it off. The kick drum that we're going to use is actually in the factory sound bank of Reason, so we don't need to download anything, we don't need to buy anything, but you know, it's completely up to you what kick drum you use for on top. We're going to go to the Kong patches here in the factory sound bank. We're going to go to the Kong sounds and samples and the bass drums. For this tutorial I am going to use a bass drum called Cone Terror SHA, and as you can hear it sounds pretty full. We're going to increase the level to 100 in the sampler, and we're going to set it to monophonic. Next I'm going to turn down the pitch considerably to about 45 so it tunes with the lower sub drum kick that we have, and I'm also going to turn down the decay to about -20 so that way the tail's more or less cut off a little bit, so still pretty weak. But what we're going to do is we're going to add a low pass filter, and we're actually just going to keep the frequency at about 63, turn down the resonance all the way, and then in the second FX box we're going to add a compressor just like the first bass drum, and we're going to use more or less the same parameters as well. So we're going to turn down the release, increase the attack, and we're going to lower the compression amount to about 27. Again, completely up to preference, however. I'm going to up the bus effect to about 63, and let's see what we have now. With this bass drum on top of this, it'll be a nice full fat bass drum. Now we're starting to clip a little bit, but that's when you can just start adjusting levels to make sure that everything sits nicely. You can even decrease the volume fader in the master and you'll be just fine. So, and even a little bit of clipping is okay. Like, as long as you're not brick walling the entire thing, you'll be okay. But at this point we are pretty much complete with custom bass kick. We used nothing but what Reason gave us, and yeah, so thank you so much for watching, and if you have any comments, concerns, feedback, please let me know. I'd love to see what you guys did with this, and if you like the video, please don't forget to subscribe. And we're all students in this, so please show me what you did with this, show me how you improved upon it, because I'm sure you guys can make something amazing. And again, just thank you so much. So we'll see you next time.